Good morning, grade 12s, and welcome to another science tutorial. In this video, we are focusing on organic chemistry, and more specifically, we're focusing on three types of formulas that you can get in your chemistry paper 2 exam. Now, what I have on the board is a typical extract from your textbook that you may be using in school. Now, what is really important to note with regards to these three types of formulas is that you don't really need to memorize the description. The description is simply there for you to understand what the formula type is, and then the important part is how to apply it. So if I can give a very important tip for your upcoming exams, don't stress too much about the description and memorizing that. Rather focus on the example. What is important, and I'm going to demonstrate this in just a second, is that you know what each formula type actually looks like. That if they ask you this in a chemistry exam, you know which one to write down. I see a lot of confusion in grade 12 chemistry exams where they're writing down the incorrect formula type if a specific formula type is asked, and then they lose all the marks because they don't know the different formula types. Now, the very first one we have on the board is a molecular formula. Now, you guys will recall from grade 10 that you did molecular formulas and you did empirical formulas. Now, an empirical formula, and this is not on the board, this is just a bit of a revision, is the basic whole number unit formula type that you did in grade 10. So, for example, that would be C2H5, the simplest version, whole number ratio that you can get out that formula. A molecular formula, as per the example on the board, is actually putting the subscript numbers there. Now, a condensed formula is just what the name suggests. It is a condensed version of the structural formula. So grade 12's in a condensed formula, you're not showing all the chemical bonds between the hydrogens and the carbons and everything else included. It is a condensed version. You will notice that different textbooks demonstrate this in different ways, and there's a few options that this is accepted. The important thing is for you not to draw all the bonds in your upcoming chemistry test, because the moment you do, that becomes a structural formula, which is the final type of formula that you need to be able to do for your chemistry exams. And just to highlight again what a structural formula is, guys, it is a formula that shows all the chemical bonds. So you can't condense certain parts. For example, I see a lot of grade 12s, if there is a OH group, they condense that, right? They don't show the bond between the O and the H. So make sure everything is shown if you are required to draw a structural formula. Now, as promised, I have a past paper open here and I have question 2 open, and I want to demonstrate in this session how this is asked and how you actually need to know this. Now, you will see in question 2, they're giving you a table. By the way, just a side note, this table is very common that you get in grade 12 exams. So make sure that if you're working through past papers, you're practicing these types of tables. And then in question 2.5, furthermore, they're asking a very, very common question, right? They're asking for a structural formula of compound E. Now, grade 12s, as I've already mentioned, a structural formula, you guys can see them highlighting that. They're highlighting it because a lot of grade 12s are drawing the wrong things up. So, structural formula, what does that mean? And I'm going to jump upwards again so you guys can see. That means they want this formula here at the bottom. They want to see all the bonds and they want to see everything complete. So a lot of grade 12s draw the wrong formula. Make sure you guys are drawing the right one. So if I can just draw your attention to number E. They're asking you for the structural formula of 2-ethyl-1-fluoro-3-methyl-butane. Now, we're going to extend a little bit from the formulas and also go into the IUPAC naming system. There will be a separate video for this. But just very quickly, so everyone can see how to approach a structural formula question, the very first thing that I suggest is that you guys start with the root name. Now, in this case, it is butane. Now, from your organic chemistry table, from your homogeneous series and all those things, you should know what butane actually means. Now, the first thing is the fact that it has a suffix "a" means that it is an alkane. The second thing is bit means it's 4 carbons. So if I were you, I would start by drawing up the 4 carbons and just kind of leaving it like that so we can build from there. If you guys prefer, you can always do this in pencil. Just remember that if you're drawing anything in pencil, you always need to adjust that to make it 10 before you submit your exams. Okay, so it's 4 carbons coming from butane. Then we're going to look at the prefixes, and the prefixes tell us what we have attached to these different carbons. Now, the very first thing you guys can see that they have 2 FL. So in other words, on carbon number 2, we should have a FL group. Now, knowing what a FL group is coming from your IUPAC naming system. Now, again, you can count from either direction because this is your structure. In my opinion, the most logical thing to do, and you will see a lot of memorandums are set up in this way, are counting from left to right. So if we count from left to right, I'm just going to kind of label the carbon so you guys can keep track of what's going on here. We're going to look at carbon 2, and we're going to draw up a ethyl group on carbon 2. So what does that mean? That means a side chain with 2 carbons. And we can even go ahead and just close this off, making sure that we include all the bonds, all the hydrogens. By the way, guys, a lot of grade 12s tend to forget a hydrogen here or there. I think it's a combination of the stress and you working quickly. Just before you move on to the next question, make sure you have drawn all your hydrogens. Otherwise, you're losing unnecessary marks because you're jumping on it too quickly. A lot of times we can literally see in exam how you have like a little line. You were on your way to draw that hydrogen, but you didn't get around to it. So then you're going to lose marks. If we then progress to looking at the 1-fluoro, that means there needs to be a fluorine group on the first carbon. And remember, guys, a fluorine group is only a F. It's not a FL. I saw that quite a bit in the previous exam that grade 12s are drawing it as FL, and that's already losing marks. So it has to have a F group. And then looking at the rest of it, on carbon 3, we should have a methyl group. So again, there's carbon 3. We can just go ahead and draw 1 carbon, which will be the side chain. And that's it. Furthermore, as I have emphasized several times, remember to close off the structure, including all the necessary hydrogens to ensure that every carbon has 4 bonds attached to it. Obviously, with the exception of double bonds, this doesn't have double bonds. So we're going to check this carbon 1, 2, and it has to have 2 more. We're going to close this off with hydrogens. And then looking at the second carbon, 1, 2, 3. So it needs a 4th bond. It's going to be closed off with hydrogen. And this one, 1, 2, 3, again, a 4th hydrogen. And then finally, this one only has 1. So we're going to close this off with 3 hydrogens. Make sure to practice, guys, this. And again, just to emphasize, right, if you don't know what a structural formula is to start with, none of this will matter because you will lose all the marks if you're drawing the wrong formula. So to close off this lesson, just highlighting the formula types again, it's so crucial that you know what each formula means and that you can draw this for the upcoming exams. You guys got this. I'm going to see you in the next video.